Welcome back, Therapists Uncut listeners. Today we have a special guest with us. Her name is Karlha Davies. With hope in her heart, fire in her blood, and fierce determination for the advancement of her fellow Black, Indigenous, and people of color, Karlha is a child of Mexican immigrant farm workers from Houston, one of California's most conservative counties. She's been able... Yes, Houston. Shout out
I don't live
Houston.
there. I just felt the need to do that.
I love it.
She's been able to occupy spaces not meant for her voice and passion, and while others have tried to extinguish her flame, it's allowed Karlha to realize her purpose in life is to show up authentically and with the integrity of her ancestors.
That's right.
Karlha's professional success begins with being the first in her family to attend and graduate from college. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Communication and Ethnic Studies from CSU Stanislaus. CSU Stanislaus!
Whoa!
Turkey Tuck! We got 3 alumni here.
Yeah.
And Karlha boasts an impressive 25-plus year career in public relations, fundraising, and community engagement in the sectors of nonprofit, education, government, and private business. Her ability to be successful in all sectors speaks volumes to her creativity, her leadership, and her ability to succeed in whatever field she's chosen to stand behind. She's been awarded a Hometown Hero of
Modesto,
awesome. A Hometown Hero, Outstanding Woman of Stanislaus County, and a Latino Hero for her commitment to advocating for others in her community. We are super honored to have you here. And while the award she's received honors her spirit of service to others, one of the things she is most proud of is working on her sobriety and 12-step recovery, which began on October 3rd, 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic. We just passed the 1-year anniversary.
I know. 1 year on Sunday.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Karlha.
Thank you for being here with us.
I feel like we need to bow after that intro. Like, yes.
No.
I felt honored to read that, man.
I feel like, who are you talking about?
Where are they?
Isn't it crazy to hear somebody read your bio and you're like, oh shit, that's me?
I know. It is.
Right?
Yeah, it is. It doesn't sound like me. It doesn't. Like, it's always like, okay.
As you hear somebody reading it, are you like, oh, I'm excited to meet this person? Oh, wait, that's me? Because that's kind of cool. Don't be afraid to sound like, just own it. Like,
yeah. I think we're going to talk about, like, I have some mental health issues. But, a lot of, it's sort of like this, like, I'm so afraid that what people are going to think of me. I want everyone to like me. And so, I know we'll go into more depth about that and what's happened, but, I hear it and I'm like, man, she sounds awesome. Like, and then I think, is that really me? Like, am I lying? Is that really the truth? So yeah.
Which is the experience of so many, right? Because we put people on a pedestal or we see people that are out there killing it in the community and their families, whatever. And our perception is everything's perfect, right? And that just so fits with our goal here, because we are here to make mental health relatable and a part of everyday conversation, because it is a part of everyday life. So let's talk about it.
Let's do it.
Welcome to the Therapists Uncut Podcast, where off-the-clock therapists who happen to be friends share their uncensored thoughts about real life. Join us weekly in spreading positivity and making mental health relatable through casual conversation, inspirational stories, and real talk with friends who happen to be therapists.
Karlha, let's start with your role in the community, your professional life. Tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, so I think you guys basically nailed everything, right? I am born and raised, bred, whatever you say, this Central Valley. I have multiple hats because I'm Latina and I feel like I got to hustle really hard, to do something in life. So I own my own consulting business, Corazon Consultants, which is cause marketing. I love supporting nonprofits with their social media and digital strategies, like how to share their message. And then I'm also a consultant with the SBDC. So, and which is like small business development. So any small business that needs help with specifically their marketing and communication strategy, like reach out to me. So
been there, done that. Like,
yeah, raise your hand if you've had services from. Oh, thank you, Karlha. We appreciate you.
Yeah. So those are some of the my day jobs, I guess. And then I sit on some community boards. Yeah. I sit on some community boards, and just trying to be of service to this community and represent my people, my gente, first generation. We're Hispanic, loud and proud. And like my bio said, I think I try to occupy spaces where we're not at the table. So
I love it. That's awesome.
That is beautiful. Now, are you a mom? Can you tell us a little bit about your family?
Oh yeah, personally, yeah, I'm a mom. I have a beautiful girl. She's 9 years old. She's in the 4th grade, and I'm married to, as you can imagine, a very exceptional man who is like, "What are you doing today?" Wow, I can't really keep up with like all the things that I'm trying to do and be. But and we've been married. Gosh, we got married in 2010, so 11 years together since 2007. So coming up on 14 years. I don't know. So yeah, it's been a wild roller coaster. And he's also
congratulations all around, man.
Yeah, and he started our sobriety journey together last year. So he's got 1 year too.
Wow,
awesome.
Let's go straight into that. First, I mean, we always say thank you to our guests, but really, it is the most genuine thank you that we can give you, because when you come on to our podcast or you go on any other public platform and you talk about your own personal journey, you are being so vulnerable, but you're giving so many people permission to explore theirs as well. And it's so inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing your morning with us today, and tell us a little bit about your sobriety journey.
Yeah. So like was mentioned, last year, I feel like it feels like it's been 5 years since we started this pandemic, but I know it was just last year.
Right.
I had gotten this position at Stan State in November of 2019, and then March 17th hit, right? And it was like, go home and figure out how to work from home. And one of the things that, obviously I'm uber involved, probably too much involved, is that like all the social events and community like engagement opportunities that feed my soul and my fire were taken away. And I think, not knowing, I think, oh, I'm okay without people. Like, no, I need people. And so I just felt so, sad and lonely and solitary. And I think like a lot of people around the world is like, well, what is there to do? There is drinking.
For sure.
This part was started like you can get Bevmo delivered to your home, right? And I'm like, let's just make some cocktails after work. And it's, March, it's spring, it's like beautiful weather. We'll sit outside, and after work, we'll just get down.
Yep.
And
it became a huge thing. And I remember when the pandemic first started that there were so many memes joking about what you're describing. And, your initial laugh, it's an initial laugh, right? But then you stop and think about it as a therapist or as somebody who's aware of this. And it's like, ooh, right? Because a lot of people are going to experience this exact thing. And we're making light of it, but it happened for so many. So I'm curious, because I know you, like you said, you do have a very public personality and you are very involved in the community. Was your journey with alcohol and sobriety, has it been a private journey? Have you made it public? So this is huge for you. Okay.
Yeah. I think I try to live my life from a place of honesty and integrity and authenticity. I think, I don't know. I don't think I'm exceptional or anything like that, but I just think that, specifically with social media and how we connect now, it's this persona, right? It's this billboard of like, what's great. What's like, look how great I am. Look at all the filters that, I'm exceptional and I'm great, and I just think that, during the pandemic, I'm like, what am I doing with my social media? Like, what is this persona that I'm trying to hometown hero, a semi woman, right? And really, I just try to be like, I want others to know that you too can, if you want it hard enough, and work hard enough, that you can make a change, a positive change. So obviously, like when I walked into my 12-step recovery program, I mean, that's a conversation, right? Of like, how did I get here? Like, do I really have a problem? But once I accepted that, yes, I have the disease of alcoholism, it runs in my family. We all know the data. You guys are therapists, so you guys know straight up, it's genetic, it's really hard to break this. That I was like, I'm not embarrassed to say I'm an alcoholic, there's so much and people, we're going to talk about this too, right? It's like, what people are like, what? No, not you.
Right?
So I've shared this on my social media, right?
In one little statement.
Right. Karlha, we have so many questions for you, so we are going to do our best to contain our conversation. But you mentioned your family. It's kind of something that you were used to. How would you say your family environment or your cultural environment played a role in your relationship with alcohol?
Yeah, so I just want to like do the outright, like this is my story and my journey. So I'm not the spokesperson for all Latinas in our community or in general, right? Absolutely. Or I'm not a cultural, like this is the way it is. But as a first generation, my parents, farm workers, right? And they work very hard. And, as with anyone, that works hard, I think there is in society in general is like you work hard and then you have that beer, right? That, it's like you come home to relax and to
that reward yourself.
Yeah. And so my parents are still in the disease, that makes me, a little very sad, right? Cause I know recovery and I know what's possible, but I also know like that I can only change myself. I can't change anybody else, and that's been the hardest, really one of the hardest things. But, growing up as I think you guys know this probably better than I do. Like there's an adult children of alcoholics, like, program. And, it's like, we all have the same sort of tendencies of being perfectionists, trying to do too much, trying to take care of others. And, growing up in a home that was unstable, a lot of fighting, and again, like I can recognize really in this 1 year of sobriety that it's not because my parents didn't know better. It's because they're so deep in their disease that there's not a way out, So I think that really affected me. And then having a little girl, and obviously my husband too, that we were both drinking excessively. I just thought like, I can't do this to her, and the chances are good that she's probably going to have her own 12-step recovery program, but hopefully I'll have more tools and more sober I am to be a better mom and a better parent.
When you have the insight, right? And again, none of this is about perfection, right? It's about real life. It's not all rainbows and butterflies and unicorn, but you have the insight to then help educate your daughter as she grows up, right? Because you have the awareness and the knowledge to kind of prepare her for, hey, this is something that your family manages and deals with. So you then need to make choices that take that into account. So you're in a place to support her.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, right? If I can keep sober and not drink, right? Like that's the first step is like just not drink. So
absolutely. How would you say it played a role in your professional life, and consider what kind of needs it was meeting for you?
Yeah, obviously I talked about the pandemic and my, being in a new role, like figuring out how to work from home, like not have people, like all these like external pressures, right? And just figuring out like how to be a stay-at-home mom, have a daughter, it's like all this.
How to be a teacher because the kids at home and you're supposed to teach them while you're working.
Yeah, right.
That was
you can hear, I know, right? You can hear in my voice, it's like this and this and this and this and this, right? And then I already had suffered, I'm on depression and anxiety medicine, and that's something that I'm not embarrassed about either, because that's just the truth and that's who I am, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But it's funny because, now I can look back and think like, any time that I've made mistakes at work or how I've showed up, right? Where I wasn't drinking on the job, but I was definitely like afterwards, like just being like, I'm so mad at like this person, like resentment, and like, I'm going to like with my wine glass, like, let's go out to drink and talk about it. Right. And like, I didn't know how to show up with a place of kindness and grace. And I'm still working on that. Right. As far as like, okay, take a breath. And so like professionally, like I've lost jobs because of that attitude, right? Of showing up like I'm a warrior, right? And someone once told me, a mentor said, you can't always show up ready to cut people's heads off. And that's how I was showing up. I was showing up with a shield and ready to take on a fight, and that's still inherently who I am, but I'm trying to learn to like pause, stop, reflect. What feeling and emotion am I having right now? Especially because now I have to figure that out because my coping mechanism of drinking is no longer something that I want, right? Chemical dependence on that stuff. So yeah, so I think everyone at my job knows, for the most part, and if they don't, they will. And I'm not embarrassed about it because it is what it is, and I'm in recovery and I'm proud of that.
I love that. Say that again.
I am in recovery and I am proud of that.
Heck yeah. I love it.
We love it. And Karlha, we love that you're also practicing self-awareness and healthy coping skills.
Right.
That is what we're all about.
Self-awareness is like our tagline here. That and scroll so hard, which
yes.
We haven't gotten very distracted this episode. We're doing pretty good.
We are.
I like that.
Good.
Scroll so hard. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. We have some ADD brains, and that's why we've got our directors in our ears. Keeping us on track because we go all over the place.
Yep. Very distractible.
You mentioned earlier that some people were, well, you didn't use the word surprised, but I saw it on your facial expression that as you started sharing the story, you might have been met with some surprise. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
It sounds like people almost wanted to argue with you too. Like, no, you don't struggle with alcohol.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I think, one of my friends is like, they're like, oh, do you want to go out for drinks? Like earlier this year. And I'm like, oh no, I'm an alcoholic, and she thought it was a joke. And I was like, no, I'm serious. I started a 12-step program, and she's like, not you, you're a leader. You're, like I've drank with you. And I think in general, that's like the consensus is like, and including me, right? When I walked into my recovery program, I was like, I do not look like what I thought an alcoholic looks like. Like, I do not fit in here. Like that whole judgment card, right? Of like, oh, an alcoholic, what I mentally thought an alcoholic looked like was like a hobo, with a brown bag. And that's so terrible. Like that's just a stereotypical thing, right?
Stereotypical societal expectations. Yeah.
Right. And where I got that image, I'm not sure, probably like the movies or just, I don't know what people think is like, this is what someone that has this disease is. Right. And then, so with that, it was like, people were like, oh, what? Why? Like, not you. And I think that also triggers people's own, like, wait, let me look at my own drinking. Mm-hmm. Because like, I think whatever they think of Karlha, right? The persona, the public persona, the community leader, that is like, if she has a problem, like I have a problem, and again, this is everyone's journey. So I have a problem where, I can't just have one glass of wine. One glass of anything really. I drink so many seltzer waters now and coffee, but I like to overindulge, and alcohol specifically for me makes me a monster, it makes me feel like I'm out of control. Those that continue to drink, that first drink, I've even noticed now in sobriety, some friends that like, I'm okay with people that drink around me, but that they have that one and then they go, right. It's that like, oh, like I feel good. Right.
And that first high you get.
Right. And then that's great for people that can have one or two or not even finish something. I was that person that was like, I'm on 3 while you're still on 1, and I can recognize that now. So, go ahead.
Yeah. So what emotional need do you think that was meeting for you? What role did that, you mentioned it was a coping mechanism. What was it serving? And I know it wasn't your healthy coping mechanism, but it was helping you cope in some way, shape, or form, maybe not healthily.
Well, in general, that's what you do, right? It's like, I'm going to work hard and then I'm going to play hard, right? And because like my passion is my community in service of others, I think a lot of people that have addiction problems are overfeelers. Like we are perfectionists and we overfeel, right? Okay. Like we want to change the world. Okay. And so like the way to not feel is to drink or smoke pot or go shopping. It's like, I need to distract these feelings that I don't know how to cope. Okay. Like I wasn't doing meditation. I wasn't take a breath. Like what's really happening? Let me like self-diagnose myself, right? It was just reaction. I'm very impulsive, and I think that is something that people with an addiction, have in common.
You mentioned earlier depression and anxiety. Do you feel like alcohol was helping you cope with those areas? And if so, when do you think you started using alcohol to cope with those areas?
Yeah, so it's funny. So when I started this journey, I reached out to my medical provider and I said, I'm in this 12-step program and I'm on, this medicine and this medicine, and I want everything checked, right? Because I think I have a problem, and I want to make sure everything's good, right? And so the doctor was like, well, do you think your medicine's working, for your anxiety and depression? And I'm like, I don't know. I've always drank with it. Like, how would I know? Like, really? Mm-hmm.
Good point.
I have never not drank with it. And I know it clearly states on the bottle that some of these medicines, right, is like, do not drink, but But like, for example, like, you know, Xanax, it's almost like the rich woman's like, I'll just pop a Xanax and a glass of wine and life will be fantastic, you know? Or at least that's what I thought.
So was it? Spoiler alert, was it?
Right. No, I mean, not for me, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't know. Like, part of this whole thing is also like what I envision a successful professional woman does is like they go drink cocktails, right? They have wine with their friends to be sophisticated. And you heard it, right? I'm from the farm worker families, and you know, and like that's still who I am. My parents live in Empire still. Like I'm still hood, you know, but part of my persona is that I work really hard. Like I want what other people have, you
Try
know,
to achieve and reach that
status.
Yeah. And drinking wine for me was part of that. Like I'm fancy and bougie.
Yeah, you weren't drinking the 40, right? You had the wine.
I was not a beer drinker. No, I wasn't a beer drinker, but you know what's funny? Towards the end, I was drinking beer. You know, it's like there was a shift where it was like, whatever, I'm gonna drink that too.
Yeah.
You know?
Where the alcohol takes over and maybe it's less about the status and it's more about the substance itself and
Absolutely. Well said. Karlha, how did alcohol play a role in your personal relationships, either with peers, colleagues, but really more so with your family as well?
Oh my gosh. So there was a joke, it's not a joke, that when I was drinking, I used alcohol as a way to be hurtful to people. And I'm super ashamed of that. You know, I'd be like, so Alyssa, I've been drinking and I'm going to tell you something, you know, and so cruel and so like not thoughtful and not intentional. But I didn't know how to be honest with the people that I love the most. Right. And that's something that I'm working through even now, right? It doesn't just because I hit a year sobriety, I have a lifetime of work to do. But so I want to
normalize that. That's
why this is a journey
here.
and a process. Right? It's not a one and done.
Right. I know. Sometimes I wish it was though, right? It's like, I just want to be great. Yeah. But so anyways, I would, when I was drinking, I would just turn into a really, like all the ugliness that lives inside me, the shame, the guilt, the hurt, that if you said like, oh, you cut your hair too short, right? The lack of self-esteem, that I would basically be throwing it up on you with my verbal, you know, the silver tongue and all that. And then of course, like drinking more and then being mad and then being self-righteous and justificating like my actions because it's like, well, I was drinking. I'm sorry, you know? And I'm just so privileged and grateful that people haven't given up on me, that they were able to, you know, some people I lost, some friends I've lost, you know, and I've made amends to them to be like, I was a pretty shitty person and I will still continue being that, but I can recognize now of like, oh, like what am I trying to do here? What am I trying to prove? You know, like why am I trying to, again, it's all my stuff. We all know this, right? Like when we point the finger at one, like that whole thing of like, we're pointing back, you know, and it's like, oh, like this is just my stuff. So with friends, definitely like that, is something that, you know, and when I was drinking, I was like, whatever, you're being dumb, you know, like you're being sensitive. The hood girl would come out, you know? And then like with my, you know, personal relationships, I love my mother and of course like a Latina and, you know, daughters and mothers always have their issues. But, you know, I got into like an actual physical confrontation. Like we didn't box or anything, but she pushed me, I pushed her. We were both drinking, you know, and we stopped talking for a while. And that was the alcohol, right? Like I would have never done that, no matter what my mom had said to me or whatever. I would just been like, I would have screamed at her, but I would have not pushed her back, you know? And then personally, right, in my nuclear family of 3, my husband and my daughter, right? Like, there's a lot of, I'm not trying to get teary eyed, but you know, having a daughter of like, she is so kind and empathetic and good and, a child of alcoholics, you know, so she's got high anxiety. She's got perfectionism, like all the things that, as you guys know, like when children grow up in these environments, they tend to be like, these are really, they're just trying to be perfect and not be seen. They want to be seen, but it's also like, she doesn't know, like, was mom going to show up happy mom because she had got some drinks before with her friends? Or is she going to be like crying mom because like someone had hurt her feelings? was her mom going to be and her dad going to be fighting, because they're both like inebriated. And that's the truth. Like that's, it's affected her the most. And as a mother, that's the hardest thing for me to accept. And part of me that keeps me in recovery. And then my husband, right? Like I said, I can be pretty cruel. I don't have to physically hurt you. I learned well how to defend myself through words and how to cut people down. And so really working on those things.
It's a day by day, whatever our journey is, right? We're all on different journeys, but whatever it is, it's a day by day. There is no, I've reached this, right? It's constant self-awareness and learning about ourselves to be a better version of ourselves.
Yep. 100%.
You said earlier, we all know this, right? One finger pointed at you, three back at me. We might hear that, but many of us are not ready or willing to accept or acknowledge that. Therefore, we keep putting on to others. So I appreciate you being able to say that because it helps remind all of us that what is really going on with us, that it's coming out in this way. Karlha, what would you say was the one event, a situation, or interaction that resulted in you deciding this is a problem, alcohol is a problem, and I need to do something about it?
So last October, I was asked to be one of Modesto Junior College's Positive People speakers, where I shared a lot of my history. And we had like 100 people on Zoom. And right after that, I drank a lot. It was a great event, but I realized that I cried a lot and I shared a lot of trauma. And so, yeah, we can talk more about that.
Okay.
Thank you, Karlha. And to all of our listeners, we are so happy that you guys chose to share your lives with us today and allow us in and help us make mental health more relatable. Karlha, thank you again. And for everybody listening, please join us on the next episode as Karlha continues sharing her story about her sobriety and recovery from alcohol.
And Karlha, thank you so much for being here. We know that this is, even though, and I'm so appreciative of your stance that this is my journey and I'm going to be genuine and real about it, because I just wish so much that more of society could have this approach, right? Because then think about what the world could be like if everybody was more genuine and honest about their journey and supportive of one another. So thank you so much for being willing to share this, and we can't wait to meet with you next episode for part 2 with Karlha.
All right. Thank you guys so much. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining Therapists Uncut, a production of AMP Smart Business. To learn more about Therapists Uncut and stay up on upcoming episodes, please subscribe and follow us on social media. As a reminder, although the Therapists Uncut co-hosts are licensed therapists, they are not your therapists. This podcast is not intended to substitute professional mental health counseling. If you need professional therapy, please contact your local provider or primary care provider. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Therapists Uncut.